Hi there, welcome to Topic 1 and Lesson 1-1, Relate Integers and Their Opposites. In this lesson, we're going to focus on the I can statement that says, I can relate integers, their opposites, and their absolute values. So we're going to have some terminology in this lesson, and you'll see those words highlighted throughout the lesson, and we'll be making marks on your pages as we go along. Take a look first at the Solve and Discuss It question. When preparing for a rocket launch, the Mission Control Center uses the phrase T- before liftoff. T-3, T-2, T-1. After the rocket has launched, T+ is used while the rocket is in flight. T+1, T+2, T+3. When does the rocket launch? And what could T represent? So what I want you to do is pause your video, and I want you to try to answer, or at least consider answering, these two questions. Write your answers, or your thinking, down here in the white space. When you're done, come back and check and see if you have something similar to what I have. In this problem, the rocket launches at 0, which is the value between T-1 and T+1. Remember, when you're counting down, T-3, T-2, T-1, the next logical number is 0. After the rocket has launched, then we talk about T+1, T+2, and T+3. This would just be like the way that the integers are organized on a number line. So what do you think T represents? Well, in this case, T stands for time. Time is the amount of time before liftoff and then the amount of time as it's measured after liftoff while the rocket is in flight. The essential question for this lesson is how are integers and their opposites related? So we're going to view 3 examples and then complete several practice problems together. After that, you should be ready to try some problems on your own. Example 1. Combine opposite quantities to make 0. Alexis was shopping on the ground floor of the mall when she realized she had left her phone in her car. She walks down 6 floors to her car in the underground parking garage. How far will Alexis walk to get back to the ground floor? Use integers to explain. So the first thing that I see here is I see one of our vocabulary words. Integers. And integers stand for the numbers that include both positive and negative numbers as well as 0. And these are whole number values, so we're not talking about any fractions or decimals. The ground floor of the mall would be represented by an integer. What integer do you think represents the ground floor of the mall? If you said 0, you would be correct. She had to walk down 6 floors to get to her car in the underground parking garage, which would be the integer -6. So how far will Alexis walk to get back to the ground floor? Well, let's take a look at the number line over here on the right. The number line can be used to represent the situation. Again, the integer 0 represents the location of where the ground floor is. The absolute value of -6, that's what those bars on either side of the number -6 represent. This is called absolute value. Represent the distance in floors that Alexis walks down to her car. Okay, she goes down and lands at -6, which is where her car is located. But the absolute value of -6 tells us how far she walked. Okay, so in this case, the absolute value tells us the distance she walked. In this case, she walked 6 floors. Okay, it doesn't tell us what direction she went. It just tells us the distance. So she had to walk 6 floors down to get to her car. The absolute value of a +6 right here represents the distance in floors. Again, it's a distance that Alexis will walk up to get back to the ground floor where she was before. So the first time she walks down to go to her car to get her phone, and then she has to go up that same set of 6 floors to get back to the mall. So -6 and +6 are what we call opposites, and opposite quantities always combine to make 0. So I'm going to take my highlighter and I'm going to highlight that statement. Opposite quantities combine to make 0. And what we need to take away from this lesson as well is the idea of absolute value. So these two absolute values both equal 6. One of them is a traveling down 6 floors, and the other one is traveling up 6 floors. But 6 is the distance. Oh, my pen's not working. Hang on. There we go. All right. So again, since Alexis will walk the same distance, 6 floors, in the opposite direction to get back to the ground floor, we say that -6 and +6 are opposite numbers. Now look at the try it question. I'd like for you to complete the try it question and then come back and check your work. All right, so let's take a look at the try it. Xavier climbs 9 feet up into an apple tree. What integer represents the direction, that's a positive or negative, and how far he will climb to get back down to the ground? What does the integer 0 represent in this situation? Well, the integer is -9, and -9 represents Xavier's climb down. The integer 0 in this case represents ground level, or the base of the apple tree. So now I want you to convince me. How are the absolute values of opposite integers related? The absolute values of opposite integers are actually the same. And this is because absolute value tells the distance those numbers are from 0. So it's always a distance from 0. The integers are actually the ones that tell us about the direction. So a positive integer tells us that we're going to go up or to the right of 0, and a negative integer will tell us to go left or down from 0. So if we know what the absolute value is of an integer, we only know the distance it is from 0. What we don't know is the direction, and that's what the integer is designed to tell us. Now let's take a look at example 2. Samuel has $20 in his savings account before he makes a deposit of $160. After 2 weeks, he withdraws $160. How did Samuel's savings account balance change? Well, let's first look at the initial amount in Samuel's account. The initial amount was $20, so that's our starting point. He made a deposit of $160, so he added $160 to his account balance, which takes his overall balance to $180. But then 2 weeks later, he withdraws $160, which is the taking away or a negative integer, and that takes him back to the $20 where he started. So what is the overall change in his account balance? Well, in this case, Samuel's account balance did not change because the amounts deposited and withdrawn combined to make 0. Okay, they are opposite quantities. So a positive 160 put together with a negative 160, because they are opposites, make 0 change. Now look at the try it. The temperature was 75 degrees at noon. At noon, the temperature increased 7 degrees. So where's the temperature now? It would be at 82 degrees. But by evening, the temperature decreased by 7 degrees. So how did the temperature change overall between where it started and where it ended? And the answer is it ends back at that same 75 degrees where it started. So the overall change in temperature is 0. Our last example is example 3. Represent change using integers. One winter morning, the temperature was -2 degrees. By 11 a.m., the temperature had decreased by 3 degrees. At 4 p.m., the temperature reached 0 degrees. What integer represents the temperature change from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m.? So we can use a number line to help us solve this problem. First, start at -2. That's our beginning temperature. The integer -3 represents the temperature decrease. So we're going to move 3 units to the left because the left is the negative direction. The temperature has a change of -3. So we go back 1, 2, 3. Now at 11 a.m., the temperature was -5 degrees Celsius, Now we know at 4 p.m. the temperature was 0. So how far is it from -5 to 0? Well, in order to get from -5 to 0, I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. So I move 5 units to the right to show the temperature increase to 0 degrees. So the temperature has a change of 5. The integer 5 represents the temperature change from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Now I want you to complete the try it. When you're finished with that, replay the video so that you can check your answer. While you're working on it, you should pause the video so that you have time to think. Record your answer in the white space. In this problem, we have to look at the overall spending that happened in this situation. The $45 in Shaniqua's wallet is what she had with her. But after spending $4 on snacks and $8 on the movie ticket, she has spent a total of $12, which is represented by the integer -12. That's this right here. Since she spent $12, then we have to take that money away from what she had at the beginning, which was $45. And 45 take away 12 is 33, so that means she has $33 left. Now that you've completed the notes and the examples for lesson 1, I'd like for you to look at the key concept. An integer, n, and its opposite, the opposite of n, always combine to make 0. So no matter what the number is, its opposite, when put together with the number, always will make 0. I'd like for you now to work with a partner on some questions on pages 10, 11, and 12. I'm going to give you some problem numbers to try, and then when you and your partner are finished, I want you to come back and check to see if you answered them correctly. Come see me or raise your hand if you have questions. I want you to try questions 1, 4 through 11, 14, and 16 through 18. These probably won't take you very long, but I want you to pause the video while you do them. You are always welcome to go back and check your notes, and again, work with a partner if you choose to help you answer those questions. When you're finished, check your answers and let me know what questions you still have. Now it's time to check your answers on questions 1, 4, 5, and 6. You may pause the video while you check your answers and have discussions, or come see me and ask questions if you still need help. Okay, now it's time for you to check your work and your answers for questions 7 through 11. Pause the video while you do this so that you have time to check answers and address any questions or problems that you're not sure about. Please don't forget to raise your hand and ask a question if you're not sure how to get the answer. When you have finished checking your answers for 7 through 11, you can replay the video and you will go on to the next page. All right, it's time to check your answers on 14, 16, 17, or 18. Make sure that you take a look at the explanations. Don't just copy answers, make sure you copy the work that goes with it. If you don't have that on your paper, then you're going to probably want to make sure that you do have it on your paper before you finish up today. Whatever questions you still have about any of the problems on pages 10, 11, or 12, or even the examples that we did earlier in the lesson, please come see me and let's get those questions answered before you go on to your assignment.